What the fuck? Like, this is how twisted. This should have nothing to do with a pipeline in fucking Virginia and West Virginia, North Carolina. This should have absolutely no play.
What this debt deal, what this raising of the debt ceiling deal shows, and I've covered this fight over the debt ceiling a couple of times in the past few weeks, but mainly to say that it is bullshit theatrics. It is designed by the two-party system so they can have something to bicker over and then cut social spending, cut spending by this government to actually care for our citizens, those of us who need it the most. I mean, people who need $100 or $200 of food assistance a month desperately need that $100 to $200, which if you've ever been in like a Whole Foods covers about a head of broccoli. They desperately need that. And that's the type of thing that's getting cut. And this ridiculous political theatrical bullshit of the debt ceiling, the two parties come together and they pretend they're hashing it out. They just can't. Oh man, we can't figure it out. And then lo and behold, they always, lo and behold, they always,
I like
woe and behold, and then whoa and behold, they always come to the same conclusion that they can figure it out. They can come to a deal and shake hands as long as they don't cut any military spending and they cut tons of social spending. It's always the same. Isn't that fun, folks? Isn't that interesting how it always ends up to be the same every time they do this shit? But all right, so if you want to take it from here, here's an article from Stephen Simler. You don't have to read my highlights, but
I won't.
Just could you say it with like some like sadness, like I won't.
You won't.
I'll do that. That's what I'll do. If you say shit like that, I'll rub your face.
Well, no, I want to. Can I get the graph, please? It's so
Not with that
hard
attitude.
to find good help these days. How do I scroll on the?
Okay, everyone, just relax. It's right here.
Calmer than you are. Well, so I mean, Stephen Semler does amazing work, but one of my favorite, my favorite thing that he does are these graphs because, I mean, they just look. I'm a visual learner, okay? So this is just, the next time somebody says to you when you use the word empire to describe the United States, oh, that seems a little strong. Be like, just mention this to them. That the Biden McCarthy, which I find it funny that it's McCarthy because when I hear McCarthy, I'm like, oh, the House Un-American Acts Committee.
McCarthyism, yeah.
But so this agreement demanded spending cuts, but guess who's exempt? The Pentagon. And that's the largest Pentagon budget ever, which is exempt from any of these spending cuts. So from all of the other things that we spend money on, health care, social services, medical research, education, environment, conservation, civil projects, all of that shit hatcheted. What didn't was the $886.3 billion official Pentagon budget. Remember that there's a lot more to it than just the official numbers. That is totally safe. Also, what is totally safe is Ukraine aid. So aid to y'all and to us and to people who, need support or need health care or whatever the fuck, or like need clean water, that aid is just cut. But aid to Nazis in Ukraine is totally safe. I know everyone feels a lot better.
Thank goodness
about that. So rest easy. I think we were all concerned.
And of all the discretionary spending, so you've got the military discretionary spending, which is like 55% or more, maybe it's closer to 60% of discretionary spending by Congress is just military. But then of the remaining, 45%, 100 billion of that out of 700 some billion is also veterans healthcare. So again, that part is partially related to military and the harm that military does and the harm that our Pentagon does. So of the discretionary spending, you end up with this tiny little block that is everything else, like food stamps and all that stuff. And that's what they're aiming to cut.
And also, as reported by the Lever. I like Lever.
I mean,
I know it's leverage.
Depending on how long we talk about this, I may Lever. I'll go with leverage. I'll go with leverage.
Good.
I mean, it wasn't great. It was okay. It was all right.
By the way, the Brits do say leverage.
Do they?
Leverage. Yes. Anyway, so
I don't know how I feel about that.
I don't know how I feel about a lot of British things, but that's a different story. So the debt deal includes provisions that expedite the construction of the Mountain Valley Pipeline, specifically a controversial fossil fuel pipeline,
which has been a huge ongoing fight to stop the Mountain Valley Pipeline. And if I'm correct, it was essentially stopped. Which people were celebrating, and now it's restarted.
Well, so there were two, like, basically twin pipelines. There was the ACP, Atlantic Coast Pipeline, and that's dead. The MVP was never officially totally stopped. It's been, I mean, it's so behind schedule. It's cost billions more than it was supposed to. But it was never officially axed.
Yeah.
So basically, it would also attempt to block courts from hearing challenges to its legality. Nice.
I love that. Putting that in the contract. You can't even bring our legality into questions.
It mandates approval of the MVP. And sorry.
Everybody can sing to themselves for a few moments here.
Right. So the MVP would emit more than 26 coal plants worth of greenhouse gases. And there's been the idea of stopping any questions to its legality is about the fact that it's been stuck in back and forth court arguments for a long time about whether they have the right permits, whether this was allowed. They dumped toxic fracking chemicals over here. What's going on with that? Like, there has been a lot of amazing work that's been done on the front lines, both in the courts and literally on the front lines of blockading, tree sits, and all of that. There has been amazing work that's been done to stop MVP by folks in most specifically Virginia and West Virginia. The pipeline would be going through West Virginia, and North Carolina. Folks in North Carolina have also been doing amazing work. So this has been ongoing for years, and nestled within this debt deal that not only slashes funding to everything that we need and care about and make sure that Ukrainian Nazis and the Pentagon gets all of its money, it also makes sure that these dirty energy projects will move forward.
And in case you need reminding on just how much is spent on our Pentagon, we spend more than the following 9 countries combined. We spend more than the bottom 144 countries combined. We spend, when you count the black budget, over $1 trillion a year. And meanwhile, of that trillion a year, the Pentagon can't account, their own words, for over half of their assets when they are audited. So it is just a giant money laundering scheme, dumping trillions, literally trillions of dollars into the pockets of the biggest sociopaths on the planet. And that is our military. And that's the funding that can't be touched when they are just discussing where are we going to get the money from to deal with the debt ceiling? What are we going to do? Never once do they talk about cutting corporate taxes, closing tax havens, cutting the tax. I mean, not cutting corporate taxes, increasing corporate taxes, cutting the tax loopholes, and increasing the taxes on the richest people in the world. Never is that discussed. Instead, we need to cut the $100 of food assistance that the poorest of the poor in this country get.
And as I understand it, basically, so there are ongoing fights regarding the Mountain Valley Pipeline that are currently in court. So, for instance, in April, the Supreme Court revived a challenge by Virginia landowners objecting to the pipeline's expropriation of their land, ruling that their lawsuit could proceed in a federal district court. But Again, I'm reading from the lever.
The lever,
The lever, the lever. The debt.
Isn't that a soap?
The debt ceiling deal, if passed by the Senate, would provide immediate congressional approval of all remaining permits and authorizations needed for the pipeline project and could prevent courts from hearing further challenges to them. So it basically,
Jesus Christ.
like, imagine just getting all of your fucking permits in a debt relief bill. Like, what the fuck? Like, this is how twisted. This should have nothing to do with a pipeline in fucking Virginia and West Virginia, North Carolina. This should have absolutely no play, but tucked in there, shoved in there, they just decided, well, we got to put this in there because, the powers that be, our overlords who pay for us to be here in these seats of Congress, want to make sure that this pipeline goes through. So we're just going to go ahead and put this through, and everyone else is looking the other way, worried about the debt ceiling. No one's going to notice.
Somewhere in there, it probably says, oh, and in the fine print, also Joe Manchin gets a fist job every Tuesday or something. Like, they just put all this shit in there, and then they go, well, we raise the debt limit. Why is it debt? What is it? It's nothing. It's made up. The U.S. prints all the money we want. There is
well, and for every dollar we print, we go into more debt.
Yeah,
it was like $1.05 or something.
Yeah, 5% essentially debt on every dollar, so it can never be paid back.
Right.
It's physically impossible. Are we good? And scene. And scene.
I'm gonna leave her.
To you. I'm gonna leave her to you. What was did we already highlight this one as well?
I mean, I mentioned it.
Yeah.
I didn't wait for you to highlight it. I'm sorry. I'm a little rusty.
I think we need a stage manager is what we need.
Well, you're used to doing this all by yourself where you're the only one talking, and then so you know exactly when to bring in the images and everything. But
okay, I don't do karate chops.